Greetings, today on my Focus RS I am installing the CCV side catch can from Radium Engineering. Alright then, this is the catch can from Radium. It is very nicely made, it feels really nice. It's going to look real nice in the engine bay if you ever get a chance to see it. Now the idea of doing the CCV side is that from the valve cover currently we are venting oily air directly into the secondary crossover pipe of the intake. So that isn't so great obviously because it's going to be spinning around the turbo, going flying through your boost pipes and going into your engine, but also because it is going through the intercooler. The oil could clog up the intercooler, make it less efficient, so you could be making less power than you would like. That's why it's a good idea to install a CCV side catch can. A couple of features of this catch can are you can do the whole petcock thing if you want in the bottom. It is optional, it does screw apart just here like a normal catch can you might be used to. You can see in there as well you've got that little dipstick, which is really handy, so if you're not sure if it's filled, you can just take the dipstick out, check it, and then empty it if needs be, otherwise not. So yeah, it's just a really nicely designed catch can. So what we need to do is we need to get under the bonnet. Alright, in the engine bay then, it's under here where our catch can is going to go, and it's back there that the connections are made. We therefore need to remove some of our intake, so we're going to remove this part and this silicone hose, and that'll give us plenty of room to work with. First thing then, engine cover comes off, we just grab it and yank it. Then we use a little 7mm socket, or you can use a flathead screwdriver to remove the hose clamps here and over there. Alright, that is our engine cover off and our hose clamps loosened. We do need to do a couple of other things before we can lift this out though. We need to remove this little bolt right here, and this is a 8mm. We also need to disconnect this, so we just push this little grey tab in. Out that comes, and then around the back it's in this little slotted groove here thing, so we just sort of wriggle that out like so. Okay, so let's get that out and then we can take this out. Just for ease of maneuverability, I'm going to take this clamp off too. Oh yeah, this is also clipped into this little plastic thing around the back too. Alright, next thing we need to remove the existing CCV hose, which is just that little crinkly thing in there which goes from here all the way over and then into the back of our crossover. If you can see that, it's a little difficult to get in there to show you. The way that the connectors on both sides work is they're these little plastic things and they kind of just like squeeze together and then come off. And that is it popped off. Obviously you couldn't see that because literally everything was in the way. But take my word for it, you just squeeze little plastic bits and pull it and it comes right off. There we go. So that's that released. So now we can see a bit more clearly this electrical harness. So we just push this little tab in here and then pull it out. There we go. That's just a little pressure sensor in case you were wondering. Here's just a little close-up of that existing pipe work. Very simple. It just vents straight out and back into the intake. So this crinkly bit is what we are basically replacing and putting the catch can in between. So we are going to need to remove that. Then we connect our new rubber pipe work into these existing connections and then connect it all up and we should be good to go. So here we have our heat gun and here we have our plastic tubing. So like I said before, it's just this crinkly bit that we are worried about. So this connection here and this connection here are the ones that we want to loosen with the heat and then just get them off the barbs. They're quite aggressive barbs, you can sort of see that they're bumpy over there, so we do need to heat it up just to pull that and get it released off of there. Just note that you do not want to remove this one. This is the connector for the intake, which is connected then to the pressure sensor. We want to keep that intact. It is literally just the two ends of this crinkly tube that we want to remove. There we go, that's one off. There we go, that is both connections now off. Alright, now we're ready to get our new tubing in place. This is really nice stuff, Insta Grip, flame resistant, made in USA by Goodyear, so you know it's good. So they give you one big length of this in the box. So what we need to do first is basically just chop this right in half. We're still going to be probably a little bit long, but we can trim it down later. So I want to just get like a sharp knife, work out roughly halfway, and yeah, chop it. There we go. Now we have our two lengths. We can do the first part, which is attaching these to the barbs that we just released from the old pipe. So they describe these barbs as being pretty aggressive, which means it's going to be quite a tight fit. You might be able to see a little bit of oil on there already, but what we can do is we can get a little bit of light oil and just lube up the barb so that we can get it in there. So I've got a glove on to do that, so that I don't get my finger all oily. Oil on the finger. Grab one of our barbs. Lube it up. So then we just insert it. Oh, that is tight, isn't it? Man, they were not lying when they said that those barbs are aggressive and very, very tight. But anyways, now that we've got them on, we can put them back in the car. Alright, so the one that goes into the crossover pipe, you can see I've connected it back up. I've connected back the electrical connection for the pressure sensor, and then I've routed it sort of like, if you can sort of see that, it's like behind everything, and then just bringing it up in here just beside the high pressure fuel pump, and that is where we need it to be just for now. So now I'll go and grab the other one and put it back in place, and also route it around to a similar place. But what I'm going to do is, you see this thing that says engine connection? I'm going to put it underneath that and then route it in here as well. It's suggested for clearance for the bracket that we move this and rotate it around towards the middle of the car, just to give it a bit more clearance for the bracket, which is going to be around here. Okay, now we are going to get this plastic grey thing out of the hole that it's currently in. If you can see there, it's kind of like one of those Christmas tree things. It's just pushed in there, so we just need to give it a decent yank to get it out. There we go. Alright, next we need to take out a couple of bolts. So this one up here we need to take out, and that is 10mm, and this one right here we need to take out, and that is 13mm. Do excuse my verbiage, the 13mm is actually just a nut, and the 10mm one is a bolt. So anyways, that is them out, and now we can get our bracket in place. Alright, this is our mounting bracket. Those 4 holes there are for the catch can itself, and then we have 3 mounting holes. So that one down there, that one up there, and this one sort of going sideways. So this one here and that other one there, those are going to use the mounting holes and the same mounting hardware that we just took out, the 10mm and the 13mm, and then that one that goes sideways is going to go into the hole that grey Christmas tree thing came out of, and Radium provide a little nut and bolt for that. So we'll do the 2 mounting points that we just removed the nut and bolt from first, and then we will get to the extra one. Alright, that is that nut and that bolt back in place. In terms of tightness, I just put them approximately as tight as it felt whenever I was loosening them, so just use your own sort of senses and work that out. But yeah, another thing to note is that this wiring harness is meant to be sort of sandwiched, as they say, under here, under the bracket, that way it doesn't clang around and it's sort of nicely held in place. So yeah, now it's time to get that 3rd mounting point put in. What you want to do is you want to put your little bolty screw thing through the hole, and then you want to put your nut onto the end with some tape of a 10mm spanner, and then you can hold that and then twist this with an Allen key and start to get it tight, and then you can remove the spanner / wrench out of the way. It's just because it's a little bit of a tight space. So there we go, that is that nice and tight. It's a very, very tight space. Just be super careful not to drop that little nut. You don't want to be fishing out a 10mm nut from the under tray or whatever. So that's all good. Now we can get our actual catch can in place. So before we install the catch can into the bracket, we need to put the side port in. So it just screws in, but Radium says that we should lubricate the O-ring before we put that in there. So that is what we're going to do now. Now to tighten this down, it's quite a big size. So in millimeters, it's about 25. So if you struggle to have, if you don't have a 25mm like dedicated size spanner, you can get just a variable one like this and set it to 25. Okay, that seems pretty tight. So that is good to go. So you can see on top of the catch can there are 4 holes for 4 little screws, and these are the screws that they provide. Now they use a 3mm Allen key or hex key, whatever you want to call it. What we want to do is put a little drop of blue thread locker on there. I've got some Vibrotite here that I had open from before, or you could use some Loctite like that. So yeah, just going to get that on there, and then we're going to get the catch can bolted into place. We're ready to install the piping that's coming from the valve cover first, and we're going to install it into the side port that we have installed on the catch can already. Now this, I have it out of the car for ease of filming, but you can do it from inside there. It's a little bit too long. I've measured it and I can take maybe around this much off and it will be a bit of a better fit. So yeah, I'm just going to chop it now. Alright, now that we are nicely cut to size, we're going to get one of the hose ends that Radium provide and we're going to install it onto our pipe. We're doing this out of the car, again just for ease of showing you. You can of course do it inside the car when it's in place. So yeah, once again, Radium say lubricate the barbs. So we're just going to do that. There we go, that is nicely on there. Very, very tight once again, but yeah, looking good and ready to be attached to the catch can. Alright then, I've gone ahead and put that into the side port of the catch can. I just did it off camera because it would just be all hands and you wouldn't really see what I was doing anyway. So yeah, I just got it in there, got it nice and tight. The size of wrench that you need is 7/8, which translates to about 22mm. So make sure you have that in your arsenal before you start doing any of this stuff. It is quite a tight little space, so yeah, just be careful with what you're doing in there. Now we are ready to sort out the top port, which our other connection, which goes into the crossover pipe, will go into, and that is nicely ready to go. So yeah, let's get that in there. So this is the top connection that we get from Radium Engineering. You may be able to see there that it's a banjo connection. So we have this banjo bolt with the big bit sort of in the middle, and then no threads here, and then this bit, which is a circular thing that goes over it with the hole there, so then it can basically, the oily air can flow in a sort of right angled manner, which is pretty cool. A couple of things to note with this: we have washers that must go on top and bottom of this, and also if you notice that this is a little higher, there's more of a gap here than there is here. This is the orientation that this needs to be. The threaded section needs to be at the top, otherwise it won't work. You know, if you do it this way around, the screw-on bit from our hose will not clear the top of the catch can, so make sure that it is up like this. So it's going to be washer, then that in that orientation, and then another washer, and then that is ready to go onto our catch can. Okay, so to begin with, we will just place it in here carefully and screw it in by hand. Okay, so one thing that we do need to make sure of is If I get this view, you can see the dipstick is right here, and then our screw connection of the banjo is there. So we need to orientate this in such a direction that it's not going to interfere with the dipstick. So this needs to be sort of pointed, not direct, but sort of at an angle like that. And then once we're ready, or once we're happy with that, that looks to be pretty good, then we tighten this down, and we actually need to torque this down. So I don't know if you can see if I get a little closer. It says on top a torque value, which is 25 foot-pounds. So you will need a big old socket in order to torque this down. The size of this is 1 1/8 of an inch, which translates in millimeters to 29. Just make sure you do have the right size of socket in your tool set before you kick off this installation. It's quite important. So yeah, once we have that in place, like I said, which I believe we do, we're ready to torque this down and make sure that it's nice and tight. And then once we do that, we can take our other connection and get it on here just the same as we did with the other one. First, just going to get it started by hand. Okay, that's getting pretty tight by hand now. So now we just need to grab a tool just to tighten it up a bit more than I can do with my hand, and then we'll be done. So there we go, that is the second pipe installed onto the catch can top port, and that is the installation of the catch can complete. You may have seen whenever I was tightening that up that I put a bit of paper over the top and then used my wrench. That was just to protect this, because this is aluminium versus steel of the wrench, which will of course damage it, so I was just trying to protect it as much as possible. But yeah, it's all good and it's in place. Now all we have to do is put our intake back together, and then we will be 100% installation complete. Well, there we go, that is the installation complete of the CCV side catch can from Radium Engineering on my Focus RS. Installation wasn't too bad. Couple of fiddly bits, I won't lie, and those barbs, getting those rubber pipes onto the end of those barbs was pretty difficult. Just take your time with it, it will happen eventually. And also another thing to note is some of the awkward sizes of tools that you're going to need, like that big 29mm socket for example. Just make sure that you have all the appropriately sized tools before you start and you will be fine. So yeah, I think it looks great in the engine bay. It's going to be very functional as well in terms of not allowing that dirty, oily air going through our intake and intercooler, etc. So yeah, I hope you like that. I hope you like this little video. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe for more content to come very, very soon. Thank you once again. Goodbye.